Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to a very interesting game that has been played a couple of days ago. It's Nihal Sarin, the chess prodigy from India, against the world champion Magnus Carlsen. And we all know how Magnus Carlsen plays the game. He's really incredible. He creates immortal attacks. But what I've noticed that Magnus Carlsen was really a competitive guy. He even sometimes on his banter blitz sessions that he plays, of course, and this game was a game from that banter blitz sessions. It's really incredible for me to see that Magnus Carlsen is really trying to win the game. It's not that he's trying to let you win. Even if he chooses sometimes maybe a dubious or irregular opening, still he wants to win this game. And that's why here I wanted to show really an incredible performance by Nihal Sarin. And he's maybe in the future a world championship challenger, maybe even a world champion in chess. We don't know, because there are now really many talented chess players from India, and it's really incredible how India is growing as a chess force, sort of. And I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're doing this. They're doing that right. And in the future, I think in the top 20 we will have at least 8-9 players from India in the top 20. So I believe chess has a bright future. We have so many great players now that can really move up and then can really evolve. And Nihal Sarin is such a player, because he became only a grandmaster at the age of 14 years only. He became the world's third youngest 2600 rated player, among many things. So it's really incredible how these kids are performing, and I wish Nihal all of the best. Of course, in the future of his career will have, as I said, really a bright future in chess. So let's check out now this game. It was really an incredible game played by both sides. So here d4 played by Nihal Sarin. We have knight to f6 by Magnus, c4, g6. Magnus plays the king's Indian. Knight to c3, bishop to g7, and now e4. So so far a normal setup in the game. Magnus plays castling. Fischer used to play this opening very often. If you play something like e5, then knight to e8 will happen, and then black will try slowly to break white's pawn center control. So that's why Nihal played here a very calm move. He played the move h3, and after the move d6, we have the so-called Makagonov attack. And this is a great variation. I had my troubles. I'm a King's Indian player. I had my troubles against this opening, because first of all, what black in some occasions can try maybe to move bishop to g3 after the move knight to f3. And then really challenge black center. Then of course the knight on f3 is controlling the e5. But the most important thing for white is that white can go into this line bishop to e3, and now this h3 is of course protecting the potential knight to g4 move, and still we're continuing the game with this powerful center. In the game, Magnus tries the move c5. If you try d takes c5, then queen to a5 will happen. You will try something like bishop to d3, d takes c5, or in some occasions you see that black is even sacrificing the pawn with d takes c5 after bishop takes c5. Then knight to c6 is also a very important sideline, followed with knight to d7 with bishop takes c3 ideas, trading off the queens. This is still a normal theory of this attack, but after the move c5, here Nihal played knight to f3. We have c takes d4, and after knight to d4, we have now sort of a Maroczy bind setup by white. Here the c4 e4 setup with the centralized knight on d4. In the game, Magnus tries b6. He plays now a double fianchetto. We have g3 by Nihal, and now bishop to g7, and now bishop to g2. Knight from b to d7. What Magnus is trying to do here is, of course, to attack the weak e4 pawn. There are several tactical threats, of course. This is simply a battle against the e4. Magnus is trying now to play the move knight to c5, challenging the e4 further. In the game, castling played by Nihal Sarin, and we have now rook to e8. Rook to e1 played by Nihal. The idea behind this move is a really deep opening preparation that white is showing us here, because what in some occasions could happen is the potential e5 move. This is a discovered attack. You see that many times. E5, if bishop takes g2 happens, then we'll simply take first the knight, and then two pieces are hanging, the bishop on g7 and also the bishop on g2. So that's why Magnus has to play the move queen to c7. But now after rook to c1, here rook to c8. If you play this idea, queen takes c4, you see how problematic this e5 move can be. If you try something like bishop takes g2, you see we first take this knight, and now both of the pieces are hanging. If you try e5, a counterattack, the knight to d5, attacking also the d6 weakness. We could play bishop to f6 or knight to f6, but now we simply take this bishop on g2. d5 is not a possibility to somehow improve the position to get at least some kind of a pawn central control, as you get knight to d6 and you get the fork on the queen and the rook, and it's game over here for white. So that's why after the move rook to c1, rook to c8 was played, and Magnus is sensing this tactical threat that Nihal has prepared here. Great game so far. We have b3. Now it's really time to fix the pawn on c4, and now we have queen to b8 by Magnus. Magnus tries now to play queen to e8, of course challenging the e4 pawn further. Here we have queen to d2, we have h6, preventing some knight to b5 ideas, and now bishop to h6 by Nihal Sarin. This wasn't maybe the best of moves. A better idea, I believe, here is bishop to g5. Of course, I'm analyzing these games with some engines. The engine really suggests here the move bishop to g5, because what we can notice sometimes after the move bishop to h6 in this Maroczy bind setups, if you go maybe too early into this bishop trades, then you can have really this bad bishop situation because your bishop is blocked out by its own pawn. On the other hand, you see this bishop of blacks is attacking the pawn on e4 combined with this knight. It could be a problematic thing, but what Nihal was trying to do here is at least to get his rook here and has this further protection of the e4 pawn. In the game queen to a8, you see how Magnus builds now the attack against this e4. We have bishop takes g7, king to g7, and now knight to d5. It forces now really Nihal to do this move because the e4 was simply too weak. You cannot protect everything, but Magnus plays now e6 here in the game, and knight takes c3 was played, and so far you cannot take the pawn. But what Magnus has prepared here is of course knight to c5, simply attacking further the e4 weakness, and now queen to e3. Okay, very good position so far for Magnus. He hasn't made a mistake. Nihal has to protect his pawn like this. Also, another sideline could have been here the move f3, which would be this normal, really Maroczy bind setup. What Magnus has built here is this so-called hedgehog formation, this 4 pawns on the 6th rank. It's a really annoying pawn structure that you can face sometimes and play against, because these pawns are really restricting this knight's ability to play in the center. But okay, so far an equal game. That's why queen to e3 here played, and now Magnus plays rook to d8. He wants finally to crack the position with the move d5, so that's why rook to d1 also here played by Nihal. So we have h6. In his live stream, Magnus Carlsen mentioned that this h6 is very important because queen to g5 is sensed as a tactical threat here played by white, so that's why h6. And you see now very weird position. 6 pawns are on the 6th rank, but I'm not seeing a good way, as I said, how to proceed here for white. Maybe in some occasions you could see an f4 move as a attacking possibility, but still your e4 is the main problem in white's position. So here Magnus, after the move rook to d2, Magnus opens the position immediately with the move d5, and here after e5 we have knight takes e4. Knight takes e4, we have d takes e4, and now rook to d1, creating a very important rook battery on the d file. We have knight to d3. Magnus cements the knight on a very active square. We have knight to e2, which is the correct move, incredible move that Nihal has found here, because now there are also this discovered attacks against this b6 pawn if knight takes e5 happens. What queen to a7 could be played here. It could be an idea, but then you get knight to c3, and you see your pawn is hanging on e4. You don't want to lose this pawn. What you could try here from black's perspective is the move b5, but c takes b5 here, a takes b5, and now knight to c3 is a good move here for white. If you try knight takes e5, then we get knight takes b5, and you see now what white has gained here are 2 connected pass pawns. I think this is better here for white, although black has some counter attack possibilities. Black has a 5 versus 3 situation on the king side, but this progress on the queen side is much more easier to make, because even if you don't take this pawn, if you try something like b4, then you see knight takes e4 happens. If you try knight takes e5, then you get a very tricky move, queen to f4. You cannot take the knight because you get first the check, and then after that the bishop here on e4, and it's game over here for Magnus. So Magnus played here after the move knight to e2. He simply takes. Simply takes the pawn on e5, but Nihal has the opportunity to grab now this pawn, and what we have gained here is now a 3 versus 1 situation. From an endgame's perspective, this is winning. If we get all of our minor pieces off the board, all of the rooks, all of the queens, this could be really a good endgame here for white. In the game, rook takes d2, and now queen to b8. And here, knight to c3, simply attacking further the weakness on e4. That's why f5, played by Magnus, and now very, very nice move here by Nihal, rook to d6. Magnus said about this move that it's really a great one, that he doesn't know what to do anymore. He was really outplayed now in this particular game. King to f7 is a forced move, but now queen to d4. You see how Nihal remaneuvered the queen and the rook, because it's much more powerful to have the rook in front of the queen than the queen in front of the rook, because the queen can be always attacked by some minor pieces. So far a great rook and queen battery, also with the direct attack against this knight on e5. So that's why knight to c3 was played, and now queen to c5. Nihal is continuing his attack. He attacks simply this piece on c6. What he wants to do is, of course, give up his rook for 2 minor pieces, which could be a good position in the game. Queen to c7, and now Nihal shows really his great attacking performance. He plays knight to d5. Great attack, but there is one problem about this attack. E takes d5, played by Magnus, and here Nihal should have played, instead of the c takes d5 idea, here queen to d5 is winning the game immediately. What you can do is play maybe the move king to g7, but then you get rook to d7. If you try to cover and also attack the queen, that's not a possibility, because you get queen to d4 first to check, and it's game over. So what you could do in this position is a potential king to f8, but then you get rook to g6, and I'm not seeing a good way how to prevent everything. You see now rook to f6 is the tactical possibility. Rook to g8 is also a serious threat. So here in this position, Nihal has a completely winning game here, but he made now a mistake. He played c takes d5, and this gives now Magnus Carlsen the opportunity to play rook to e5. Great defensive idea that Magnus found here, because you cannot take, your queen is hanging. So here in the game, bishop to f1, played by Nihal, which is the correct move. He has to play the move, and now after queen to e7, Nihal plays the mistake, bishop to c4. Here it's really necessary, I believe, to simply take rook takes c6 and hope for a draw, because Nihal made that mistake here after the move bishop takes c6 and queen to c6. What black could do is maybe a potential e3 move, but we can simply push this pawn further. Maybe e takes f2 is a possibility, but now king to g2, and here maybe bishop to c4, d7. This is really this stockfish line that stockfish is suggesting here after the move d7. Here maybe to grab the pawn on g6 and really hope for a draw. But in the game after the move bishop to c4, Magnus has now the opportunity. So Nihal didn't play this move rook to c6. He played the move bishop to c4, and Magnus missed the obvious move knight to d4, which wins the game immediately for black, because if queen to d4 happens, then queen takes d6. So you see many pieces are hanging here, so there's nothing you can do after the move queen to d4. But Magnus makes a mistake. He plays e3, and now here d takes c6, played by Nihal. We have king to g8, and now rook to d7 in this position. The world champion Magnus resigned. Great game with many inaccuracies and blunders, but as I said, here knight to d5 in this position, Nihal has a completely great game, because here after the move e takes d5, queen to d5 is the winning move, which Nihal missed. So here in this position he is winning, but he missed that. He played c takes d5, and you see here after the move bishop to c4, knight to d4 is winning for black, but Magnus makes the mistake and gives Nihal the opportunity to play d takes c6, and as I said, this was game over. So okay, maybe we shouldn't evaluate this game too much. Of course, Nihal is a talented player. We'll see how his career will go on. But still, this is great. This is a huge accomplishment. And as I said, Magnus is playing these games very, very seriously. He takes them seriously. and which is great basically, because he doesn't want to just give up games. He wants to play active and great games. So still, of course, Nihal can make progress, but it was cool to see. I have to admit it. I was a little bit happy when I saw that Nihal destroyed Magnus Carlsen. I hope Magnus is not watching this, but as I said, I was a little bit happy. It was a cool game with this great knight to d5 sacrifice. And still, of course, Magnus is the best player in the world, but sometimes it's also good to see the world champion losing. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it really a lot. If you want to see more talented chess players, check out my chess prodigies series. Here's the link. And if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, here is also the link. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best of